fellow race fans, it is Monday, March 1st, and that was so random.
I know.
So we are roughly, I don't know, 3 hours away from home. Oh my God. Really?
Well, it's because the shocks are over on this stupid truck.
Oh, yay, more money to spend. Okay, don't stop distracting me. So, headed back from Park Rapids. We raced Saturday and Sunday. Overall, decently happy with the weekend. No one crashed. That's good. No damage to the sled. That's good. But Joel decided he wanted to blow a belt. So he got towed back on Saturday. Unfortunate, but I don't know. Have you ever been towed back? Yeah, you have.
A couple times.
Yeah.
So
Lake
I
cross.
think the third time.
Only the third time he's ever been towed back off a racetrack before.
I don't have a lot of DNFs, but yeah.
I have one. Two. Nope, two. It's always lake cross. One of them wasn't my fault, though. But that's okay. I digress. So, Joel DNF'd on Saturday, unfortunately. Luckily, I raced before he blew the belt, so decent pace. I was closer to my competition than I was in Iowa, which was a good thing. Sled was steering pretty hard all weekend. We tried to throw pretty much everything we possibly could at that thing to improve the setup. Got it a little bit better for Sunday's race. But I think our biggest problem right now is that we just don't have the sled low enough. So we're not able to pitch the back of the sled sideways like everybody else is able to in the corners. It just has too much grip.
Yeah.
So I know this is our last ice race of this year, so we don't have to really worry about it until next year, but we kind of have a plan already set for next year. We do need to get our shocks shortened, which will lower our center of gravity and help us to be able to kind of pitch that end out. So overall, not quite happy with the ice setup. We were talking to Jill Hatteen, and when they raced the same suspension that we have now, which is my Rush suspension, they said that they chased it for like 3 or 4 years to even try to get it competitive on ice. So apparently I have the wrong sled for ice racing, which is fine. We like the terrain racing a lot, and going forward, we'll see kind of what the schedules entail as far as how many terrain races versus how many ice races. If we do want to continue to compete for points championships, going forward, there's going to be a minimum number of races that you have to compete in per season. So based on the scheduling, it will kind of depend on how many terrain versus how many ice races that they have planned. And of course, as we have found out this year, the schedule can change a lot.
Yeah, you have to be adaptable.
Yes. So
Hard lesson there.
yeah, we weren't going to do any ice races at all, and we ended up doing 2, and we haven't even done a terrain race. We did find out this weekend that we are going to Upson, which basically is the Hurley area of Wisconsin. Both ski races are going to be there, which is awesome for us because it's a lot closer to home.
Whitecap.
Yep, it's Whitecap Mountain, I think, so a ski hill resort. We'll go there in a month from now, so I think the 27th, 28th of March, and then we go back up there April 10th and 11th. And I think both of them are double points weekends.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yes, that is confirmed. Both of them are.
For a lot of the races lost. Yeah.
Correct. So total, the season will have 8 races, and we will have done 6 out of the 8. So that's really good. So 2 more race weekends coming up, but 4 races. So I did the math, and as long as we make both of the White Cap weekends, I will have second place points in the championship for sport women, so that's awesome. I think overall the goal for me is to just get closer and closer to the girl that has the points championship basically wrapped up for the year. I really can't quite compare myself completely to her because she's been doing this longer than me, and she has a very good team. Her father raced for quite a number of years. So I basically just have to look at my own overall improvement as the season continues to go by. So I'm excited to switch everything back over to terrain. We lost all the snow back at home, so unfortunately the trails are not open, but if we get a bunch of snow, I will be finally happy to actually have my own sled out on the snow this year. Joel finished 11th out of 19, and basically he was the best. He was the best of the drivers who DNF'd.
Thanks.
Which is, there was a lot more. Out of the 19 drivers that started the weekend, only 11 of them, I can't really say that.
I guess I look at more of the results, but the other guy was only like 9 seconds back, which I could have made up that time if I weren't pulling over so much.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference.
Faster points racing people about.
Right. The biggest difference between the cross country and the lake cross for us is that you can't block in cross country. So
there's no point in it. Really.
Yeah, it's completely opposite of what we do in lake cross. So in lake cross, you're looking behind you and you're trying everything you can to keep the people behind you for the whole race, because whoever crosses the finish line first wins. But in cross country, you don't want to get in people's way, and you could actually get in trouble if you block too much.
Well, and if they already caught you, they're ahead of you.
Exactly. Yes. So if people are way faster than you and they're right behind you, you just wave them by, and usually, they'll thank you later or give you a thumbs up or whatever.
To a line that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not going to try to run you over, and you don't want them to run into you. So you just kind of let them by. It's all based on time. So that's why when they let us out onto the track, they let us out one by one and let the person in front of you get a good distance away before you go. So pretty interesting watching a lot of the other sleds. Like we said, everybody else that was pretty competitive was able to pitch the back end of their sled sideways. I mean, they're basically drifting the corners is what they're doing.
Scrubbing speed.
Yeah, and it's similar to what they do in motocross or supercross. Is they kick the bike sideways
on throttle time.
Yes,
that's essentially what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a few different ways that you can do it. I've tried doing just kind of using the brake and allowing the back end to kick out, but I had to be very careful with that because my center of gravity on my sled is still a little too high, so you'd feel very tippy. There
was a very fine line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I almost tipped on Saturday, but I kept it upright. I came in a little too high. Speed wise, the sled pulls great. It was definitely catching the attention of some other people, which was good. A lot of people had their eyes on my sled, particularly because of the wrap job. And it looks so different than everybody else's sled there.
Sure, it looks good.
I mean, we're talking over 100 sleds, and no one has a wrap job like mine does. So that's good that it's getting the attention of people, because you want eyes on it. You want eyes on your driving. So yeah, overall decent weekend.
You just had. I felt like, to me, it was racing within the limits of the sled. And I had a few times I tried staying with people that I started going over that limit, and I was like, okay, just take what the sled gives you and bring it back in one piece.
Yeah, that's kind of the most important thing. I mean, it's definitely a risk taking your trail sled and racing it. A lot of these people have just a dedicated race sled, and they buy, the even bigger teams. If you really do it right, you have one ice sled and one terrain sled. Some people like us are trying to swap between two different setups on the same sled, one for ice, one for terrain. And we're even worse because we use the same sleds to trail ride. So if we break anything at a race, we're not going to be trail riding until it gets fixed. So it's definitely a risk you take. That's what we have to do right now. If we had unlimited funds, I would have a completely dedicated race sled or have two of them. But, got to work within our means. So can't really compare ourselves to some of the really big teams that have, full crews to work on their sleds and things like that. But shout out to Joe and Luke Van Lysel, who are our friendly counterparts in Wisconsin. They pitted next to us, thank God.
It wasn't planned, just we had to get there at the same time.
We just got there at the same time, and thankfully they were there because when Joel shredded the belt, Luke and Joe helped us out. Luke was able to take our secondary clutch apart and completely clean it out. There were pieces of belt in it, so I'm glad he suggested that. And Luke ended up shearing a bolt the next day, Sunday, on the jack shaft and had the entire skid out. So I'm like, well, you guys helped us on the belt the day before. What do you guys need help with? And we're able to get him going again, get the skid back in and the sled put back together. And he ended up winning his sports stock 600 class, which is what Joel was in. And he is maintaining the points lead in that class. So really glad that we were able to help him out to continue his streak and the points championship in that class. Big shout out to the Hattines, especially Jill. Jill helped us out. We did not have our big torque wrench with us when we were trying to put the primary clutch back on Saturday. And Van Lysel's did not have theirs either, so I went over to Jill, and she was kind enough to lend me her big torque wrench so we could get the primary clutch back on. And she gave us a lot of really great insight into setup for my particular sled, and kind of gave me some pointers of like what to pay attention to when I'm going into a corner, as far as knowing whether to make adjustments on the center shock or the rear shock. And so she was an absolute wealth of knowledge for the two of us. I can only hope that one day I can be as smart as her, and be able to do anything remotely as well as she does when she works on sleds. So super great to meet her. Really excited to have her kind of in my corner for any kind of driving questions or setup questions. Pretty cool that somebody of her stature within Polaris is like willing to just talk to any racer, especially women racers, to help us out in that regard. So
shout out to the only two moms racing.
Yes. Compared to all the women that are racing from juniors all the way through the pro women's, Jill and I are the only moms that I know of.
Maybe the only two couples.
We're the only two, as far as I know, the only two couples that race together too. So her and Alex and me and Joel. So pretty cool to have something in common with her like that. So pretty tired from this weekend. I ripped my hands open again. Yay. Totally bruised up my shins like normal. I even taped them and they still bruise. So yeah, pretty sore. Forearms hurt. After my race, I could not feel anything from below my elbows for about 5-10 minutes. I didn't even feel like I had arms. Everything was completely numb, so I don't know how the hell I even held on for that long. Pretty good speeds. I had 107 on Saturday and 105 on Sunday, and you were in the low hundreds too,
yeah,
like 103.
104,
104.
102 a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just a few miles an hour off, yeah.
there's some stuff that we can do with clutching in the future. I'm not necessarily concerned about it at this point.
Really want to get up on the maintenance end, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of different things that we can do as far as like regular maintenance stuff, like going through the clutches and going through the belt and preparing that, keeping it warm, such and so forth. Like, there's a lot of different things that we're not doing that we definitely.
Pretty much an endless amount of stuff you can do.
Yeah. The list
Just
is
in the
never
clutching,
ending.
that's not to mention everything else.
Right. So we're learning as we go. I was pretty down on myself all weekend, but I do have to remember that, even though we've been racing for 7 years, this is a lot different than what we've been used to.
More competitive.
For sure.
That's the best.
I still was slower than every single junior this week. So, these kids are half my age, but I have to understand that these kids have been doing it for a lot longer than me, and a lot of them have parents that raced before them and have had years and years of experience of what to do, what not to do, what works, what doesn't work. So I don't want to say that everything's been handed to them, but we'll just say that their situation has been made a lot easier because of the experience from their parents. So I just need to make sure that I'm comparing myself to myself and not to everybody else that has so much more experience than me driving and working on the sleds and figuring out what a proven setup is. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I kind of said it before you did, is that if it makes you feel better, a lot of it's the sled, because I couldn't really do much with it either.
Yes, that is true.
So, in a weird way, it should make you feel better to see me do bad too.
Yeah, when I saw that he finished last out of all the sleds that raced yesterday, I'm like, okay, well, you lost too. So it makes me feel better that it's not just
it
me.
validates that I've been saying the sled needs to be better.
Yeah.
That you're not as bad of a driver
as I think I was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. So we'll take it as a positive. We're going to take it as a learning opportunity. We'll get the sled home and kind of start trying to hone in the terrain setup. Like I said, unfortunately, we have no snow at home, so there's not much testing we can do.
A lot of testing we already did this year on that setup.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as we can get it the same, it should be more honed than we just raced.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's not perfect yet, but I think it's going to be a lot easier to be able to hone the terrain setup in than the ice one, because we already have had
months getting that ready.
Yeah, and I've already had 2 years on the sled on terrain. I haven't had a lot of experience on our new Elka shocks with the dual rate springs as I was with the previous Walker Evans shocks, but I already know that the current setup that we have is way better, so I guess we'll take it from there. We got a month before our next race, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you'll see me on the Snow Pro 500 this time.
He'll finally be back on his own sled.
Yeah.
All right, we will catch you guys later.
See ya.
Peace.